family. Here we are again. It's that time. It's 8 o'clock. Y'all know what that means, right? It's time to talk. Again, thank y'all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you and everybody that has been able to make this happen. I'm so excited as always. Like, I can't believe I'm in season 5. We've had a lot of conversations over these last couple of years, right? Season 5. Oh, wow. And again, it's something different. We're talking healthcare, the challenges, the successes, and where do we go from here? Let me first start by saying thank you to RST Automation. Um, just being a sponsor and just being part of my growth and helping me. Um, that it means RT Automation. When I talk about them, it's just the way that they're changing the game. They are bringing new stuff. They are. I know that she doesn't see us, but I see her. Um, they are bringing new stuff to the scene with the AIM systems, with the pill pack systems, and it being just so innovative. If you haven't seen them, please check them out. Again, thank them for, I thank them for being a sponsor for this season. Bright Star Apparel for the gear that I've rocking, and the shirts and things, my cups, just everything. I like to thank my vendors. And as always, time to talk. What they didn't tell me is still available. My good news for everybody is that the follow-up, I am, working on the follow-up, and it will be, forthcoming. I will let people know when that's going to happen. I wanted to start today by talking about, we've been talking about healthcare and healthcare challenges, right? So I wanted to throw some statistics out there for you just so you can get an understanding of what it is, right? So I was doing some research, and according to the CDC, 136 million patients visit the ER per year in the US alone. Think about that. 136 million people visit the ER per year in just the United States alone. Wow. So I started thinking about that number, and then I wanted to dive a little bit deeper. And it said that 30% of those people are there because of something injury related. Now, when I get into the injuries and thinking from a sterile processing standpoint, I think ER visit, injury, surgery, sterile processing. I think about how that goes together. Might not always be the case, but 136 million people, 30% of them are there because of something injury related. Wow. Now I'm thinking about, like, from just a normal, these are all CDC statistics. So it said that 42 for every 100 people, 42%. So think about the number of people that you come in contact with every single day. Just walking around a hospital, or just in general walking around. 42 for every 100 people. 42% of the people have ED visits. So it's more likely that you've seen or met somebody and just you walking around that's going to be a patient at the ED. Can you see that in perspective? That's just a lot of people in general. So when we're talking healthcare, the challenges, and we're talking what the changes may or may not be, think about the sheer number of people that are visiting the ED. So then, me being the sterile processing person, I said, okay, a lot of people going to the ED, a lot of people may be making it to surgery. How does that affect us? Well, 64 million surgical procedures a year. 64 million surgical procedures every year. And that goes from a tooth extraction all the way to open heart. So you see the gambit there. We're saying from a tooth extraction, because if you do your tooth, that's a surgery, right? So from a tooth extraction to open heart, 64 million surgical procedures. So then I dived a little bit deeper because once I get into that rabbit hole, I have to keep going, right? So then it said 15.9% of surgical procedures have an equipment related incident that was observed. 15.9. 15.9% of surgical procedures that were witnessed had an equipment related incident. Again, I kept diving into the rabbit hole, and then 40% of those incidents were due to the unavailability of equipment, mostly instruments. So I'm like, wow. So we talking healthcare changes. We're talking how the sheer numbers play a part in that. 64 million surgical procedures, and 40% of the 15.9% that had issues, 40% of those incidents were instrument related, unavailable of instruments. So that would be like a 12 minutes of extra work, 5-minute delay on average. That's where we're at with healthcare. These are all recent numbers. So that's where we're at with healthcare. And just in that alone, I just wanted to say that, like, just in doing the research, that the state of healthcare is constantly evolving with changes in regulations and the shifting patient needs shaping the landscape. It is crucial for healthcare facilities to adapt and to innovate in order to provide high quality care, improve patient outcomes, and ensure a seamless experience for all the stakeholders involved. Collaboration with our vendors, strategic consolidation, and continuous evaluation of performance are the key factors in navigating the complexities of the healthcare industry and delivering top-notch services to those in need. I said all that to say, you heard the key parts in there: collaboration with our vendors. We don't really think about that in a lot of terms, but think about the number of vendors that come into your facilities. Think about the number of vendors that you talk to daily. Think about the number of cases that require extra trays. Think about the part that we don't see from an OR perspective of the vendors coming to them with products, to the vendors that, service the OR side that we may not get anything from, but it's still a collaborative effort all across that we need to see, right? So vendors do play a significant role in the healthcare industry by providing essential services and technology that enable healthcare facilities to operate efficiently and effectively. Vendors can introduce innovative solutions that improve patient care, streamline operations, and enhance overall performance. By collaborating with the vendors, healthcare facilities can stay ahead of the trends, adopt new technologies, and meet the evolving needs of patients and providers. The key part of that is patients and providers. So that's why I went out and got the guest that I got today, because, I met this young man and his story and just the things that he's done intrigued me to the point that I wanted to have a conversation with him. And I told him way back then, like, hey, I'm gonna have to get you on the show because I want people to hear from your perspective what you've seen, how the challenges, how these things affect your day to day. And you being a vendor, I wanted them to get a different side. I know that I talked to mostly sterile processing people. I talked to people in that space, but he's not in this space. He's still in the healthcare side, but he's not in our space. But as I just said, that collaborative effort that goes back and forth, he's still a member of this valuable team, just from a different perspective. So I wanted to talk to him today just to get his side of what he has seen. So, family, as we always do, can you please welcome my good friend, Mr. Jason Terry, to the scene and let him get that warm welcome as we always do. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. I know, like I said, I normally talk to a bunch of sterile processing people, industry people that, we have hands on with on a day-to-day basis. So for the people who don't know you, Can you tell the people who Jason Terry is?
Okay, yeah. So Jason Terry, originally from Gary, Indiana. I've been living in Illinois for about 30 years, 30 plus years now. And I'm a graduate of Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. And I have done a myriad of careers, but in
Okay.
the last 19 years, I've been in the pharmaceutical industry, and I've done everything from cardiovascular, started in the primary care space, moved into specialty, and then in the last 6.5 years, I've been in the ophthalmic space. So
Okay.
in ophthalmology, and I'm now in rare disease in retina.
Yeah.
And yes.
I saw something about that, and we'll elaborate about that a little bit later. But uh, with it being, you have had a plethora of different things in this space, and
Hmm.
I know that you've traveled and just like I said, been in Indiana and stuff like that. Um, just jump right in. What are some of the current challenges that you see that healthcare professionals face in providing high quality healthcare?
So what I've kind of seen, I guess, especially since the pandemic and everything like that,
Yeah.
is just less people doing more work. Somewhat of a high rate of turnover, and retention has been an issue in that space. And so, there are opportunities out there for a lot of folks, but, I've noticed that, there've been a lot of moving around. And so retention has been quite an issue. A lot of these healthcare workers, start even from the hospital situation, also to the private clinics, they work long hours,
Yes.
uh, and see a lot of patients, and so sometimes that can take a toll on morale. I've seen that a little bit, and then also from the provider's time, seeing more patients, it affects provider and patient time together. So consultation has somewhat taken a hit. A lot of the physicians I call on, they still do their due diligence. I've noticed those, but it ends up again, it takes a toll on their workday, and also now that trickles down the staff. It takes a toll on their workday,
Right,
but
right.
but yeah, so patient and provider time has taken a hit. I noticed even in like maybe the clinic and hospital situations, leadership has been a little sketchy at times, some turnover there. So therefore, that creates sometimes a poor leadership, communication between leadership and also the people that are working day to day. You have some dissension in those arenas at times. And, and then ultimately, like I said, sometimes this can create a little burnout and stress from, all the players that are involved.
Now, just in that alone, when you're talking, and we talk about it too, doing more with less. I like it because I've said that several times. The cases don't stop.
Nope.
They keep adding them to the surgery schedule.
Yeah.
And like you said, they're burning out the people. Is coming down from the top down. So I think what people don't realize is that part that you just said about even the physicians. They're losing, the consultations. They're doing these type of things, but the stress, the ad is they still want these cases on the schedule.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You still got to do work. You still got to keep going. Even as a physician, you may not be seeing the same number of patients, but what happens when you have that surgery block? You still got to get your cases on there, right? So
Yeah,
they
no,
still get to work, but if you're not seeing the people,
yeah.
and you mentioned since the pandemic, I know we're supposed to be coming out of the pandemic. Uh,
Hmm.
what is causing people not to come back to the workforce?
Well, in some instances, they saw, especially administratively, in
Okay.
some instances, people saw that they could be, somewhat productive at home. And so, and they got used to doing that. So now it's hard pressed to kind of get people back into what I'm throwing up hand quotes, the rat race a little bit,
Right.
when they can be at home and I guess, upgrade their parenting opportunities, and be it more of their kids' events and things like that. And they've gotten spoiled to that. And I get that. They've gotten spoiled to that. So to get them back in house, it has been somewhat of a struggle.
Now, I do realize that there were a bunch of jobs that did go from home, but people like you, people like me, that still have to hit the grind and go in.
Yes.
We were feeling the brunt of that because, like I said, the work from home is nice if you can do it, but
Yes.
the people that can't, or like you said, with the pandemic, you had the people that were susceptible to, you know, COVID, and
Yes.
they didn't want to be in those spaces because of, hey, and this is not a knock on anybody, but the immune systems, or
Hmm.
things that they were, had to be out of the setting for. It still put the onus on us because we still had to go to work and still do the same things. And
Exactly.
you said, right, more with less. So you walk into departments and you're like, hey, it's a ghost town in here, but hey, still 50 cases on the board. So let's
Now,
do what we gotta do.
Now, here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to paint a picture that is just rampant across the board. When I go in a lot of facilities, people are still there and patient facing, customer facing. There's still human interaction in most situations. But, like I said, in certain arenas within the healthcare space, those folks who feel that they can be productive and do their job at home, they're going to do it. And then some of them, they kind of do maybe like a hybrid situation where they come in maybe a couple of days.
Yes.
And so now, one of the things that I have noticed from afar, what takes a hit there is the culture. So seeing these folks every day, like especially if you are a tenured employee and you understand the ins and outs of this business, when a new employee comes on and now they're only seeing you either half the time or a little bit, there's something that gets lost in the culture, and also that learning curve for those newer folks.
Okay, and glad you said it that way because I got a comment here or a question for you from Rebecca Clark. She says, "Do you think that is generational based, or do you think that technology and AI has a lot to do with it too, as pertaining to like people wanting to stay home or coming back to that workspace, as you said?"
Well, absolutely. So technology has, enabled us to do some of the work from home. There are systems we can have our, again, I'm using it generically, whatever the platform you use. We have Teams meetings,
Right.
Zoom meetings, however you choose to use whatever platform is being utilized, and you can still have that employee to employee FaceTime. However, it's nothing like sometimes to be able to just walk over to someone's desk and ask a question, and get whatever information that you need. But certainly, AI and technology has become a major player in the healthcare space. Like I said, mentioned earlier, like, again, technology has become somewhat at times even a roadblock, with physicians. There's a lot more documentation, a lot more things that are being asked of them, navigating some of these EMR systems and that kind of thing. So, everything is inputted into a lot of these EMR systems and those type of things. And when those things are not running well that particular day or a couple of days,
Right.
that will certainly affect how businesses ran, that particular week, and may put them behind a little bit.
You got a couple of things there. Sharon came in and said she thinks it's a little combination of both.
Yep.
Mr. Holiday, he said it's more with less. It's all about efficiency and working smarter, not harder. Uh,
Yep.
Again, you touched on something that I want to just go back to a second because I don't think people really honed in on that part that you said. Zoom is fine, Teams is fine. Y'all still have that interaction, but at the base of that, you said the culture.
Yes.
And you still have that culture if y'all are not in the same area, not in the same space, and on screens. How do you still have that working element, that that culture? How do you still hone in on that and still nurture that if you're not there?
I agree. So, I mean, it'll take a bigger effort to get that done. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it
Okay.
takes a bigger effort to get it done. And it does. And a lot of times, again, when I say bigger effort, it doesn't happen organically. So sometimes just being in that space, some of these things happen organically. You know, you may overhear conversations. You know, you chime in with your 2.5 cents, and and you may enhance that conversation, or you may share some light on that conversation, where if you are working remotely, you may not have heard that conversation at all. So it's just like I said, some of these things happen organically. And here's what I don't want to do. I hope I am not coming off to say that working remotely for folks or whatever is a negative. I mean, there are positives to that for sure. We throw these phrases out, but there's positives. But work-life balance is very important, and morale may pick up, and people are coming into their space maybe a little more invigorated because they're not burning out, having to trek in every day and going through traffic, wasting gas, and all these other things that they do on a day-to-day basis. So it's not a total negative, and I don't want to convey that either.
No, I agree, but I'm saying that there is the advantages. I don't like what Jason says. I just cut my camera off because I don't have to deal with that today. You know what I mean? Teams and stuff, it is a little bit different. Sharon just said, no, I believe that team culture does suffer because rubbing elbows generates more camaraderie than an hour or two per day on a team's meeting. So,
well, I couldn't agree more. So yeah, that's kind of where I started.
okay.
That's kind of where I started. Yes, the culture suffers. Yeah, that's why I mentioned culture early on. It does suffer. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't happen organically. And rubbing elbows is, it's a positive thing. It can be, if you have the right players in this. And
You gotta have the right ones to make that grow and
yeah,
make that happen.
exactly.
So, yeah.
Some of those folks, it may be addition by subtraction not to have those folks in that space.
Right.
They can be a little toxic at times, but overall, I think being in the same space and rubbing elbows is a good thing.
I think maybe in that situation, being on the screen might be a better option. You can mute them. You can do what you need to do to calm it down at that point. So yeah, so I get that a lot. And like since you brought up, like I said, you brought up like the COVID-19 and how it's changed different things. From what you've seen, and I'm not just talking about the shortages or the teams and things like that. How has the COVID pandemic influenced the way you see the healthcare systems in general operate today worldwide? Like I know, like I said, with you being traveled, that's why I said it that way. Like what have you seen in those spaces just from the changes, just based on the pandemic?
So a lot of things are a trickle down effect. So as I mentioned earlier, maybe you have less people doing more work. So what does that mean to the patient at times? So patient access then changes a little bit. So these patients, the appointment times get stretched out a little longer. What may have taken you 2 to 3 weeks to get an appointment, now it takes you 4 to 6 weeks maybe to get that same appointment.
Right.
And I just had that experience just recently. I'm starting to become a little long in the tooth here, and in my upper 50s, and so just had my second colonoscopy.
Right.
So to get that done, it took a little while to kind of get an appointment for that. Fortunately, everything came out beautifully and everything came out clean. But if I was a patient that was at risk, the longer you go and the longer you delay treatment opportunities, who knows, that can be detrimental to a patient. So also avoidance from as far as patients are concerned, they're a little timid. Your at-risk patients and also your elderly patients, they kind of avoid going to clinics and hospitals and these places where there's going to be a lot of people there. They're now in fear of doing that, and they won't enter some of these healthcare facilities until, let's say if they're having some kind of symptom, and then that thing turns into something big for them, and then they have to go there, when in fact they could have gone there maybe a couple of months prior and been diagnosed and been on a treatment regimen at that point. And then, for instance, like, yeah, just kind of picking on that thought, a patient that may have a heart situation or whatever, and they're feeling some palpitations or some arrhythmias or, those type of things, and they ignore it because their fear of being in these spaces
Right.
sometimes will override what they're feeling. I'll get through it. I'll be fine. I'm not going over to that place or whatever, and now they may have an event, which forces them to be in that space. So the healthcare system, overall, like I said, people are like still scurrying around to, kind of catch up with technologies and all these kind of things. The healthcare system itself are trying to beef up their protocols.
Yes.
Still, from the COVID situation by being caught off guard just a bit. It kind of exposed us a little bit of where we were with that situation, and it exacerbated the hospital beds and all, as we know, and all those other things.
So yeah,
So
like opening up that door. I want to touch on that a little bit more, but we're gonna go to a commercial, and then when we come back, we're gonna get right back into it with Mr. Jason Terry. See y'all in a minute, family.
Scrub is all about celebrating healthcare. If you're in the healthcare field, no matter where you work, we celebrate you.
Family, I know y'all saw it there. RST, what else can I say? Like the efficiency of it. Again, I saw it. I was a fan. Know that technology is coming, but they are cutting edge right on the edge of that. And of course, if you don't have your ticket to Scrub Ball, make sure you reach out and get your ticket to Scrub Ball. Celebrate, celebrate those healthcare heroes. And I'm not just talking sterile processing. We're talking anybody who wears scrubs. That's the place we get them honored. That's the place to get the education. That's the place you can have some fun. If you don't have your ticket yet, what are you waiting for? Scrub Ball. Let's do it. We are here with Mr. Jason Terry. He's definitely dropping nuggets on us and letting us know some good information. Right before the commercial, we were talking about things that changed since the pandemic and things that he has seen. And man, like yeah, you talked about as we started out talking about more with less, and we talked about beds running out and things of that nature. So now that we're slowly coming out of that pandemic, and there's a big push now where everybody's AI. What's going to happen in the future? Is it going to replace the people? And the pandemic taught us that we need to keep the work and this, that, and the third. Have you seen any significant changes on your end as it pertains to AI? I know you're that person that has to have that conversation with the doctor. You're out there, with the sales, and you're talking to people daily. How has AI, if anything, changed the way that you approach your day to day?
So on my day to day, I would say it's not been I guess prevalent in my day to day.
Okay.
However, we've had some of those high level conversations here and there where some of the healthcare systems are starting to, and companies on my end are starting to adopt, AI. But on the healthcare system side, they are looking at some things that, may decrease human error.
Okay.
And, as we mentioned earlier about, you know, a lot less people doing more jobs and then experiencing burnout. Well, the AI and technology does not burn out. So you can inundate, those systems with a lot of data and a lot of information, and the likelihood of accuracy is extremely, extremely high, and the bandwidth is just different than the human brain.
Right.
And so, with, like I said, entering a lot of data in those systems and then getting outcomes, accurate outcomes, will benefit the overall healthcare system. And then I guess another thing too is some of those AI systems, they look at help diagnosing certain diseases and certain things, like if we're talking cancer, like tumors and things like that. And they look at images, and those systems can take a little closer look than maybe the human eye can, and help with a treatment regimen going forward. So, these are some of the conversations that we're having now, and we really just started to scratch the surface. But I think within the next 10 years, you're going to see, a lot more things with robotics, and then also a lot more of the partnering with technology more than we ever have been.
Now, just from what you just said there, like I know from our standpoint, we look at it and say, well, a robot can't clean something like the human looking at it, getting deep
Yep.
in there. From
Yep.
your standpoint, robots can't go in and have that interpersonal conversation with doctors. So we don't see that going away. You still need to demo your product. You still need to talk to him, find out where he's at, meet him at his level, and come down and say, hey, this is how we can help you. So certain jobs I don't see that, as people fear, I don't see that the human part of it is going to go away.
No.
So it's how about, as you said, it's working together with technology. People
Yes.
still have a fear of it because they say technology grows and it evolves and it thinks and this and that. What is your thought on, hey, these are coming to take our jobs? Because that's what robots are going to be taking over. They're going to be taking our jobs. And, what are we going to do then?
So how I look at it, you can look at it as they're coming to take your jobs, because they will take some jobs probably. However, or you can look at it, it's coming to change our jobs.
Okay.
So, one of the things I adopted a long time ago was a phrase that I heard a long time ago. I can't tell you where I heard it from, but change is inevitable. It's going to happen. You either embrace it or create those changes, or things will pass you by. So, you as you see things starting to happen, we've moved away, and I'm probably going to take a little left turn here. When we, going through the industrial age, a lot of folks, if you start talking the auto industry. I come from Gary, Indiana originally, where it was a steel town and a
Right.
steel industry. And so what used to take, 500 people to maybe complete a task, when technology happened, it took 200 to 250 people to complete that same task.
Right.
And those people who now, where it used to be laborers, now they have to become skilled laborers. And so, those folks who see this coming down the pike, start to take advantage of whatever trainings they can, start to understand this. Those will be the people who kind of will be able to tread water and survive this. But I think as we move forward and lose some of that human contact, I'm not a fan of that. I'm not. A machine can't hold your hand, like you said, and
Right.
look you in the eye and give comfort and those type of things. When we start talking, if you're just starting to dispense information to patients, and things like that. So, it has its place, and that's why I used the phrase earlier. I said partner with technology, as opposed to just have technology kind of become the forefront. I still think, like I said, human contact and our expertise is still needed.
So, just a quick question, just for the audience. You said for people that were laborers needed to
Hmm.
probably become skilled laborers. Can you elaborate on what that means, just so that people can understand the difference between a laborer and a skilled laborer?
Yeah, again, not meant to be a negative term. However, I come from a steel town. It used to, and I lived in a neighborhood where pretty much 75 to 80% of the people worked in the mills.
Right.
And so they could graduate high school without any formal training or formal education, roll their sleeves up, go out there, be taught a task, and complete their particular task. Again, as technology became a lot more prevalent, then they had to graduate and learn a different skill, a higher skill. So being able to run the computerized board that runs some of the things in the mill, being able to operate some of the cranes which were now a lot more technologically advanced. So they had to be certified to do those things, as
Okay.
opposed to just kind of rolling their sleeves up and going to do a job. Now, again, I hope, people didn't take any offense to that. I come from a family of laborers.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so that, and they, that's where I got my education through these folks. I got fed every day. I had a roof over my head through people who just rolled their sleeves up and went to work. But a lot of those opportunities are depleted. So
I like that analogy where you started talking about like the automotive industry. That was where we first, I guess, would be in that boom where you say, "Hey, we were doing all this by hand. Now we have assembly lines." And
yes,
as you said it, we went from 500 to 200 can do the same type of job, because now you have that assistance of the assembly line and how that was put together. I think that is kind of where we want to see this go. Is like, okay, yes, you're right. It's going to take some jobs, but how do you make it so that it's a collaborative effort working with the AI and technology? Because these things are going to happen regardless of what we feel about it. You know that it's coming. You
it's
know
it's
that's
it's
just the
it's
way.
it's a steamroller. Like you're not. It's a freight train. So you can either resent it,
Right.
or you can hop on board and roll along with it and figure out where your place and where you fit in. Because it's going to happen. It just does.
Yeah, even at some of our cohorts went over to like the World Health Organization, and they had the big show, and they sent back videos and pictures of futuristic things, and you're sitting here like, oh, it can wrap a tray. Oh, it can put together a tray. Oh, it could, and you're just like, okay, where does that leave us? But like you said, it not only is going to help, but then it might create those other jobs because somebody has to work on that stuff. And I
Yes.
think what you're saying with the skill, so now go learn that skill. So now, because somebody has to fix the robot, somebody has to do these things when the robot goes down, or
Yep.
when technology doesn't work, they still have to call in somebody. I
Yes.
don't see robots fixing the robot that fixes the robot. So are that spaces for us? It's just how do people embrace that and move forward? So that
Yeah.
is a very good analogy there. I like the way that you put that.
You can look at it. Depends on your attitude. Is it cup half full, half empty? If you're looking at it from a half full standpoint, it will push you to grow. It'll create an opportunity for you to learn something new and gain a new skill. It depends on how you look at it. Or if your cup is half empty, you look at it all, woe is me, and this is going to replace me, and it's all bad and that kind of thing. But I always, for myself, when these things start to happen, and they're starting to move forward and move quickly, instead of resenting it, I go, I wasn't invited to the meeting. They didn't invite me to the meeting to ask me what I thought about it. I'm either in or out, and I need to kind of, be intuitive and learn and move along with it.
Right. Lamont said AI may not have the human critical thinking. It may lack judgment and real-time troubleshooting, but the combo of AI and HI can be a powerful force.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think that people got to get that mindset.
There you go.
We know it's coming. How can it help us? And what can we do to help ourselves embrace it? I think that's where we get stuck at, because everybody's stuck at that, oh, it's going to take our job. It's going to take our job, instead of saying, oh, no, this is going to be a tool to help us get to the next level. And that's what I tell my people. AI is coming. We know it's coming. So now let's prepare for it. So I think in that space of that gray area of preparing for it, people get the doubt. Like you said, the self-doubt creeps in. Is the glass half empty? Is it half full? Where do we go from here? That's where we're at.
Good. I thank Lamont for, like, he summed that up very well. I took the long way around to kind of say what he was saying, but yeah, he eloquently said what I was getting at. But that's a great point.
And Rebecca says, will it create more for people who work on the AI machines? That's what we're talking about, the job.
Yeah, you mentioned that a moment ago. Yeah.
So that's the thought process. You have to, like you said earlier, is either you sit there, such as the term skilled laborer.
There you go.
It's all tying together now. Like, so you kind of start seeing the wheels are turning and people like, he's right. So we don't have to sit back and say it's a negative. Nope. It don't have to be a negative. We can take it to the next level. How do we help ourselves?
So not always less jobs. Like I said, different jobs.
Jobs.
So like I said, there will be people coming along with a new skill or willing to learn a new skill. They'll have a different opportunity.
Sharon says businesses had to learn to exist without workers during the pandemic shutdown, and lots of the workforce exhibit entitlement, no offense, and want to do the basic work for a high level of pay demands. That's what we were talking about earlier, right? So that mentality, you got stuck there because, hey, I can work from home, I can do this, I can do less. They still got to pay me these dollars, but now you're saying, hey, come back to the office. So people don't want to take that walk with you, like, come back to the office.
The
house for a year. What are you talking about? Back to the office. And then that started changing people's mindsets, because then I think a lot of people adapted to work from home. There was there's still a lot of work from home jobs.
And then to add to that, I was just going to say, there are a lot of ancillary jobs out there and things that people do to supplement income and that kind of thing. Uber drive, ride share driving, those type of things. People are doing things on the internet to earn money as well. So some of them, their thirst for
living, staying at home.
Exactly. Coming back to work that's hard pressed.
Oh my. In that, let's talk about that for a second. So I know you work closely with doctors and physicians. Yes. From a standpoint of people who work in the OR, SPD, working with doctors sometimes can be difficult.
A little bit.
To say the least, they can be difficult. I noticed, like, say, when I was going over your bios and stuff, and you talk about the B2B and all the things that you've accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep that? How do you establish that connection? What makes it so that you and that person connect? Because that's where people say the AI doesn't have that part. It's never going to have that human element. And with everything that you've accomplished in the awards and all that stuff, how do you establish that connection and keep the doctor engaged in what you're doing?
So first and foremost, I think be present.
Okay.
So the doctor community, the physician community, and healthcare community is no different than what we do every day as far as networking, LinkedIn, all those type of things. But being present, I'm a face-to-face kind of person. I schedule appointments, I meet with their staff and that kind of thing. So I'm present. I show up. And secondly, but probably more important than that, is to bring value. to be knowledgeable about what it is, whatever your arena is. So I'm in the in the retina space. These folks have. So a lot of people may not know. I didn't know until I got in the retina space. They are ophthalmologists, but they actually have to go an additional 2 years of fellowship to become retina specialists. So not only did they go to medical school and then they did a fellowship in ophthalmology, now they have to do an additional fellowship to become a retina specialist. So I can't show up. I have to bring value. I can't show up not understanding and knowing whatever our disease state we're talking about, whatever the marketplace is going on in the marketplace, and then more importantly, my particular product. I need to know it frontwards and backwards and be able to answer any questions they have and handle those objections. And also, not only do you have interaction with the physician themselves, it's their office staff,
Right.
The gatekeepers, so to speak. You need to have relationships with those folks. They need to be informed. They need to understand what payers are doing with your product because they handle all of that stuff. So when they submit your product and their patient to insurance companies, you need to inform them this is what the expectation will probably be. There may be a prior authorization involved. There may be a step edit involved, those kind of things, because they don't want to be surprised by some of this stuff because, again, it taxes their workday. Being knowledgeable and educating their staff and them is very important. That's what builds rapport.
So you're telling me that you just don't show up to sell something. You actually have to know some things. Because I did a speech for a group of young sales reps, and the first thing I said to them as a director and reps coming in, I need you to know your product. And you just mentioned that. And They looked at me like I didn't know what I was talking about. And they was like, but we're bringing it to you so we know it. But then, like you just said, knowing it to the point that you can tell me any little thing that may or may not go wrong, how it compares to this. So doing that research and then making that engagement, I think that's the part you said that made me realize why you're successful, because you did every little piece of that was like the homework is all coming together now, and you show up with that knowledge base, and that's how you keep their attention. Like I said, you're down to the office staff, and I don't hear a lot of reps say that. Knowing the office people, not just the surgeon himself or the physician himself, you're even engaging the office people so that everybody's involved in the process.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, it is like you said, the engagement, but it is also just being human and being personable, and being someone that they want to talk to. Those type of things. When you mentioned, I'm coming to sell something, I like to think I don't sell anything. I don't. I come to inform. I come to consult. I'm a consultant. I bring you information. I bring you being very candid and transparent about whatever product it is. Here are the ins, here are the outs. Here's what the safety profile looks like. Those are the things that I share with them. I don't keep anything from them. I want them to understand and know what to expect, and then how to consult their patient with the particular product that I might be a representative for. Here's what the studies say. Here's how the studies were designed, and here's what we saw, and here's what real world looks like as well. So and you have to be transparent about those things.
I don't hear a lot of people say that part of it is I give them the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep.
You always come in with hey, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Yep.
It's in the place of ABC, and you don't talk about, okay, it's taking the place of this, but you may still need this because we're not all the way there yet. People won't talk about that part because they're afraid of losing that client or somebody not going with their particular product. You don't hear everybody talk about all the parts of it.
Yeah. Now, trust me.
Product is not the greatest.
Trust me. I am going to highlight the good. You know, my company pays me to highlight the good for sure. You know, but and you know, the thing I do, I've been fortunate in this industry. I've always been in a situation where I've had best in class products.
Yeah,
So, you know, I'm going to highlight the good. But, you know, with everything, I mean, if you add some type of biologic or peptide to a person's you know, their physical, you know, there can be a side effect, and and
right.
everybody needs to understand and know these things. You know, so I make sure I share all of these things with, you know, the people that I'm speaking to, the office staff, and also the physician.
That Miss Clark came back and said that just based on what you said just now, I think that speaks to anyone in their field. That's great advice for everyone or all around. Because you're right. If you can come in and you can speak to your product front, backwards, forwards, any question I ask, you're more prone to catch my attention versus just you coming in like, hey, look, this is what it is. It's the great. Take it to the OR, and the doctor's gonna love it. Okay, so what about no, don't worry about that. Like you're
So
actually
basically,
transparent with it. So
what you just spoke to is credibility.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the thing, you know, whether my company or whether anything, whatever is in play, it's about credibility. And, you know, my reputation is at stake there as well. You know, I don't want anyone to ever say, well, Jason lied to me just to sell his product. No, I'm never going to do that. Will I ever make a mistake and misspeak? Maybe that's happened. You know, I've been doing this for a very long time, and when I do discover that, I come back and let them know, hey, I shared something with you a few weeks back. It wasn't totally accurate. Here's what accurate is. Here is the accuracy, and I wanted to clear that up.
I think that part right there, and I have talked to my staff about this all the time in a different capacity, but being able to come back and have that conversation when you know that you may have misspoke speaks volumes as well. You're not going to let it go. You came back to say, you know what? About 3 weeks ago, I said, but that's not quite. And the fact that you actually followed up, that says a lot about, you said, the credibility, the character of the person. And that's somebody that people would want to engage with and want to talk to because they know that they're going to get the real from that person.
Absolutely.
So that's actually a very good, valid point right there, all the way around.
In our industry, we call it being compliant. You know, you want to be compliant. You want to make sure that the information you dispense is accurate, and you know, you want to fact check yourself before you share this information. And you know, we do have a lot of documentation and studies and things like that to refer to that their colleagues have approved as well. So you know, it can be fact checked by them as well. So
family, just know that if your rep isn't, your vendor isn't talking to you like this, then get you a new vendor. I will say this, Jason, just in talking and just leading up to this show, I did go and look at you and research and looked at stuff. And I will say that everybody that commented or left comments had very high regards for you. Your colleagues speak very highly of you. Just in that space alone, I saw many different comments about, hey, great teammate, front runner, leads the way, all of those things. And sir, for being that type of vendor, I say thank you, because those are the vendors that, we want in our spaces. Those are the vendors that, doctors, physicians, office staff, that trickles all the way down to us in sterile processing. Those are the type of vendors that we want. And again, I appreciate you for, even in your display here today, just letting people know, like, this is what it should be. So when you're engaging with vendors, people can listen and say, oh, wait a minute, they didn't mention this, or they didn't say this. So let me ask this question to see if I get the right answer. Because again, it comes back to what level of engagement you have with that person. What kind of questions are you asking? Because a vendor will say, well, you didn't ask that question. Like, you didn't ask that, so I didn't bring it up. But so knowing the product, and that was a big one for me. That transparency is a big one for me, and I like all of those characteristics right there.
Go in, be knowledgeable, educate, and this is just a life thing. Be a good person. Just be a good person, and you know, and you'll do fine. Yeah.
That's the bottom line to it right there, right? Family, we are here. We have been talking to Jason about all sorts of things. We started out talking about the profession itself, where we're at, where we're headed. We got into AI. We talked about, what happened during the pandemic and how that's changed. But the biggest thing that we talked about was how are we going to embrace AI when it happens? We know it's inevitable. It's going to happen. How do we embrace that? How do we still make ourselves a valuable part of the team? He talked about laborers versus skilled laborers and how you can transform yourself from one to the other and still find value in what you do every day. We talked about the people at home and how that changed healthcare when people had to go work from home. Is that still a thing? Is that not a thing? How do people get back into the workforce? How do we bring those people back to the workforce? These are all questions that we will be answering in future tense because, again, doing more with less. How do we get the people back to where we need them to be to? That was what we were talking about. Jason, my friend, if you could give one last comment to the people, uh, just in closing, can you give them one tidbit that they can take with them as a nugget to hold on to and reflect back on in their journey into healthcare?
Whew, that's a tough one there. So I would just say overall, this is a human business. Be whatever it is you do. If you are in the healthcare side, if you stay and remain, be patient focused, because people are coming to you for your expertise, and they're coming to you to trust you. So be patient focused, be empathetic as best as you can, and do your best to provide the best treatment that you possibly can. And then I said, prior to that, be a good person. Just be a good person, and that'll take pretty much all of us a long way. And if we pay it forward and be kind and that kind of thing. So that's basically what I have.
You had one last comment on the way out. Rebecca said it was a great episode. Thank you, Jason, for
Thank
all of
you.
that knowledge and stuff that you were giving. People appreciated it. I appreciated it. I thank you, sir, for being here. It's at it's a meeting of the minds. Thanks, Jason. Look, see, you got the people riled up. Now they're gonna be finding out what we do to keep going forward.
I greatly appreciate it.
Family, it's been a time to talk. We have been here talking healthcare, talking changes, talking AI, talking work from home, talking pandemic. We talked about it all, but at the bottom of it, what are we here for? As Jason said, plain and simple, be a good person. That is the last part of it is be a good person in your everyday actions with people. You want to reflect that. Be a good person. Jason, if the people wanted to ask you some questions or just reach back out to you, how can they find you, sir?
So I'm on LinkedIn. You can look at my profile, Jason Terry, on LinkedIn. I'm actually on Facebook as well. So I'm under Jason Terry there, so you can find me there. And if you go on LinkedIn, my site there, I even attach my phone number to it.
Okay.
So you can, reach out in a text or DM me in the LinkedIn, and within a day or so, I'll respond.
There you go, people. Jason Terry, rep extraordinaire, excellence in every aspect. Sir, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Family, as always, next week, same time, it will be a time to talk again. Jason, I appreciate you. Family, see y'all soon. Y'all have a good night. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.